Okay, the excitement around artificial intelligence is absolutely everywhere you look. But here's the billion-dollar question. Is this a real world-changing revolution, or is it just a massive financial bubble that's about to pop? Let's dig in.
And you know what's wild? This isn't just people on the outside getting nervous. That quote right there is from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. When the guy leading the charge admits, yeah, we're probably in a bubble, you gotta pay attention.
So, naturally, this has everybody thinking the same thing. Are we just watching a slow-motion replay of the dot-com disaster from back in 2000?
To figure that out, we first need to get the lay of the land. We need to map out this modern-day AI gold rush and see who's actually striking gold and who's just selling the shovels.
You see, it's not one single industry. It's really an ecosystem with three key layers. At the very bottom, you've got the chip companies, like NVIDIA and AMD. They're making the essential hardware, the picks and shovels. Then you have the infrastructure providers, your Amazons and Microsofts, who build the massive data centers. And at the very top, you have the AI companies themselves, OpenAI and Anthropic, the ones using all that power to build the amazing models we hear about.
Okay, now for the first major red flag, and it's a big one. It's all about this really weird, almost circular flow of money that's happening at the very top of that ecosystem. This visual really says it all. Here's how this loop works. Step one, a chip maker, let's say NVIDIA, pours billions of dollars into a hot AI startup. Step two, that startup, of course, needs a truly insane amount of computing power to do its thing. So for step three, where does it spend that brand new investment? It turns around and uses it to buy chips right back from NVIDIA. The money literally goes in a circle. And listen, this isn't some one-off, isolated deal. We're seeing this kind of thing happening all over the place, connecting all the big players, OpenAI, Microsoft, Oracle, AMD, in this really complex web of investing in your own customers.
It just raises this really uncomfortable question. Is NVIDIA, the pick and shovel seller in this gold rush, basically just paying the miners to create demand for its own tools? I mean, this kind of arrangement can make your revenue numbers look amazing, but it can also hide what the real demand actually is.
So that whole money go-around thing is definitely a little sketchy. But the case for a crash gets way, way stronger when you look at the raw numbers behind the hype. And frankly, they seemed completely unsustainable. Let's just take OpenAI, the poster child for this whole movement. They're projected to pull in $13 billion in revenue in 2025. That sounds incredible, right? Well, just wait. Because in that same exact year, they are projected to lose $8.5 billion. That's not a business model. That's a money furnace. It's just burning through cash. And it is not just OpenAI. Analysts figure that for the entire AI industry to actually be profitable by 2030, it needs to be generating $2 trillion a year in revenue. The problem? Current projections have it maybe hitting $780 billion. I mean, this chart shows you just how massive that gap is. It's a chasm. And on top of all the financial weirdness, there are some huge real-world roadblocks. You can't just snap your fingers and build the power grid needed for these data centers. That takes a decade or more. The super expensive chips they're all buying could be obsolete way faster than anyone thinks. And the market is just dangerously concentrated. Get this, just two companies buy almost 40% of NVIDIA's chips. If one of them even just slows down, it could send shockwaves through the whole system. Okay, so that all sounds pretty dire, right? Like doom and gloom is just around the corner. But there's a really strong counter-argument here that says, hang on a second, this time really is different.
And the single biggest difference comes down to who's footing the bill. Back in the dot-com bubble, you had all these speculative startups with zero profits and tons of debt. Today, the AI boom is being bankrolled by insanely profitable, cash-rich tech giants like Microsoft and Amazon. They're spending from their mountains of cash, not from money they borrowed.
And the numbers really drive this point home. Back in 2000, over a third of tech companies were unprofitable. Today, that number has been cut almost in half. The whole foundation of the tech market is just fundamentally stronger.
So why are they spending all this money? Well, from the point of view of a company like Meta, the calculation is simple. The risk of getting left behind on AI, of missing the boat, is so much bigger than the risk of overspending by a few $1 billion. For them, it's an existential bet they absolutely have to make.
All right, so where does all this leave us? We've got scary red flags on one side and some pretty solid fundamentals on the other. So let's try to put it all together into a more realistic picture of the future. Think correction, not crisis. Look, the sky-high valuations and the absolutely insane level of spending, that just can't last forever. Something's gotta give. So what's most likely to happen is a consolidation. Right now, there are over 500 AI unicorns, companies valued over $1 billion. Most of them are probably going to fail or get bought for parts, but that's a culling, not a catastrophe for the entire market.
And for a quick history lesson on this, let's talk about Netscape. Back in the mid-90s, they were the internet. They were the dominant browser, the undisputed leader of the whole revolution.
Never heard of them? Well, that's exactly the point. Technological revolutions are absolutely brutal, and even if the technology itself succeeds and completely changes the world, it doesn't mean the early pioneers are the ones who survived to win the war. So let's be clear, AI is going to reshape our world. There's almost no question about that. But as the billions and billions of dollars keep pouring in, the real question is whether today's investors are funding the opportunity of a lifetime or if they're just paying for history's next very, very expensive lesson.